midnight tomorrow, PennDOT crews will start erecting barriers to close down most lanes of the Parkway East as part of a 2-year project to completely rebuild the road and many of the ramps and bridges. Pittsburgh is about to embark on one of the most complex and ambitious road rebuilding projects this country has ever seen.
You're looking at some of the roughest urban terrain in America, and probably one of the hardest places anywhere to build and maintain a road system, Pittsburgh. No matter where you go, it's over this hill, down and around another, through this tunnel, or across that bridge. It isn't easy to get around the greater Pittsburgh area, but more than 2 million people do every day. From the north, south, and west, more than 390,000 vehicles wind their way into and out of the city. And in the East Corridor, the most densely populated, another 290,000 vehicles travel, 81,000 of which use this artery, the Parkway East, the only freeway into town. Built in the early 1950s, the Parkway East has become the second busiest expressway in the state. The outer sections had been repaired earlier, and that had caused massive traffic jams. Now the inner corridor, at the heart of the entry points for the city, and smack dab in the middle of some of the hilliest territory, was scheduled by PennDOT for reconstruction in 1981 and 1982. The question was obvious. How could you reconstruct this urban expressway without massive disruption?
The problem that we face is that it's a road just too important to fix. It's the single most important highway in the region.
Once the construction starts, I don't know how I'm going to get to work. There's simply no good way to get from here to there.
That's not totally true. There are alternate routes, but take a look at them. You could head north and west in this Z fashion across the Allegheny River, head towards the city on this expressway, cross the river again, and that would put you at the perimeter of the city. Or you could stay closer to the Parkway and take a more direct route. But then you face driving through community after community, narrow roads, frequent intersections, and these routes are already congested. The planned construction would displace 81,000 of the 130,000 vehicles which use the Parkway daily. And with all of them heading for the same alternate routes, already close to capacity, the prospects were disturbing. It would be almost impossible to carry on business as usual. Even worse, it could mean economic ruin for many. The complexity of the construction did not help the situation. It was a $58 million project to rebuild 6.5 miles of roadway in 2 phases over a 16-month period. Close and rebuild the eastbound lanes, March 1981 through November 1st, 1981. Reopen all lanes for winter. Close and rebuild the westbound lanes, March of 1982 through November 1st, 1982. Into these 2 phases was scheduled a vast amount of work. The rebuilding of the 6.5-mile main line with 8 inches of new concrete was not the major portion of the job. It was this and this and this. 21 badly deteriorated bridges that needed new decks and support structure repair. The Squirrel Hill Tunnel, which required new flooring and installation of a computer-controlled ventilation and lighting system, and widening the shoulder to 12 feet. Of course, in this area, there was often no place to widen except by filling in and building up the roadbed. Other parts of the project included rebuilding several of the interchanges, installing new sodium vapor lighting, building a concrete median barrier, and providing new traffic and directional signs. The length of time it would take to complete this project and the complicated logistics just added to all the other problems. PennDOT had to find a way to avoid disaster. And they did. Where did they begin?
Major concerns out here is going to be in the area of the Squirrel Hill Tunnel. As most of you know, we have 80,000 vehicles a day that...
They began with ideas, not about how to speed up construction, not about how to move cars, but about how to move people through the corridor. 6 months prior to the first shovel touching pavement, Roger Carrier, district engineer with FHWA support, gathered a brain trust of design and traffic engineers to come up with ideas, no matter how wild they seemed at first. They concentrated on ways of moving people through the corridor without interrupting the economics of the region. It was an innovative approach.
We came up with every idea we could possibly think of, and then we took the best of them and created a plan.
Carrier presented this plan to the Federal Highway Administration for funding. Although many thought it had little chance of success, since the FHWA never allocated funds for non-construction purposes, the administration did fund the program. They looked on the people-moving strategies as an experiment and agreed to participate in the cost of implementing the strategies to learn what can be done to relieve the effects of rebuilding a high-volume traffic route in urban areas. FHWA stated, "We agree that innovative and extraordinary travel maintenance measures are necessary because of the terrain in the Pittsburgh area, the lack of adequate alternative transportation facilities, and because conventional detours are not feasible. Accordingly, we consider federal aid interstate participation in these strategies to be appropriate work items incidental to the basic I-376 Reconstruction project." The strategy PennDOT devised included both a people-moving strategy and a public information campaign. Here's what it entailed. The strategy included 6 elements: alternate route development, ramps for high-occupancy vehicles, van pooling, a new commuter train, new express bus routes, and park-and-ride lots. The alternate routes were devised in cooperation with community leaders. Instead of just mapping a route, officials changed the routes to make the flow of traffic as smooth as possible. One-way streets were established and new signs installed. Street parking was forbidden and local communities towed offenders when needed. Some of the intersections were upgraded, new signals added, and an interconnection system was put into operation. All intersections that could possibly tie up traffic were manned by off-duty police officers from each community. Their salaries were paid for as a part of the construction project. These officers controlled traffic at 21 locations. PennDOT planners also met with managers of both city and county highway departments. Some projects were completed early. About 12 construction projects that would have restricted the alternate routes were delayed. So for about $1 million, the alternate routes were able to carry another 47,000 vehicles per day, an increase of 23%. Most of the on-off ramps along the Parkway were closed. The entry of cars into one lane of traffic would have backed up traffic on both the Parkway and the alternate routes. Only ramps at the perimeter of the construction were left open, and 2 high-occupancy vehicle ramps, which meant 3 or more occupants per vehicle, were established. A first for the western Pennsylvania area. While this move caused resistance at first, the HOV ramps were accepted and used regularly. This reduced congestion and increased the number of people moving through the corridor. Over 9,500 people in only 879 vehicles at a cost of $600 per day. PennDOT leased 35 vans from a leasing company and, along with the Southwestern Pennsylvania Regional Planning Commission, set up door-to-door van pooling programs. They had success in working with major corporations to encourage their employees to use the van pools. One corporation alone set up 47 van pools. The Department of Transportation and SPRPC planners also established a unique third-party program that computer-matched people by area and time of departure. This accounted for another 31 van pools. This program was one of the most successful and cost-effective strategies. On the average, the van pools moved 1,000 people per day through the corridor at a total cost of only $60,000 for the entire project. Van pools had other benefits also. They saved 8 million vehicle miles, thereby reducing fuel consumption and cutting pollution, in addition to easing traffic congestion. A new commuter rail service was created to serve the outer suburbs. The train could carry 2,000 commuters round trip a day and was scheduled for 4 runs daily. Unlike the other people-moving strategies, the train was not cost-effective. It was canceled after the first phase of construction and replaced by express buses. Only about 500 people a day used the train at a cost to the project of $1,600,000. PennDOT leased 12 new park and ride lots in addition to those already existing. Church parking areas turned out to be the most easily acquired and least expensive lots for weekday use. 900 new parking spaces were leased. An average of 40 people used each lot each day at a cost to PennDOT of $1.13 per person. In cooperation with Allegheny County's Port Authority Transit, PennDOT established 9 alternate bus routes that were used by East Corridor travelers. These routes supplemented existing routes where research indicated that bottlenecks would arise. As part of the project, Pat added 21 buses, 3 foremen, 55 drivers, and 15 mechanics. This part of the experiment was unique because federal highway construction funds were used to pay for these services for the first time. The extra buses moved 1,400 people through the corridor daily at a total cost to the project of about $2,200,000. It was another effective part of the strategy. These bus routes and van pools continued after the construction was completed. People permanently switched travel modes, thus reducing congestion and air pollution. None of the people-moving plans were created and then left to chance. They were monitored carefully by an outside consulting agency, GAI Consultants Incorporated, and the Department of Civil Engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. Since the project was being carried out in 2 phases, whatever was learned in the first phase could then be applied to phase 2. The consultants conducted a comprehensive traffic survey before, during, and after construction on 4 screen lines, using 40 counting points. The number, type of vehicle, and occupancy per vehicle were tabulated. They also measured travel times on the parkway and alternate routes. This information was bolstered with another new type of data collection method. The consultants established a panel of users who agreed to be surveyed throughout the project. First, they established types of users, breaking them into parkway users, alternate route users, and bus riders. This was accomplished through a handout survey to 12,000 commuters. Then follow-ups to 4,000 commuters who agreed to be on the panel were conducted by mail. As a result of these studies, PennDOT knew where people were coming from and where they were going. They were able to apply this knowledge in Phase 2, so even before traffic was shifted to the eastbound lanes, they knew where the bottlenecks would occur. This off-ramp at the Greensburg Pike, which was going to be closed for Phase 2, was used as an on-ramp. And at this interchange, PennDOT planners restricted traffic at peak hours to outbound only. This ramp carried slightly less outbound traffic than the Parkway main line. It helped avoid drastic traffic jams that probably would have occurred without the study. PennDOT's consultants also used the floating car technique to monitor travel times before, during, and after the project. The floating cars, with stopwatch time trips, measured the average delay at 6 minutes for the morning rush hour, with a delay of 20 minutes on one alternate route. This delay time matched responses in the surveys, which indicated that commuters were experiencing delays of about 5 minutes. No matter how good the strategies and no matter how well studied, there is only one way they will work. They have to be communicated to the public.
We wanted to do more than explain the details of the project. We wanted to gain the cooperation and the confidence of the community that we could do this if we all worked together.
That effort began in earnest a full 6 months before construction began and included both a community phase and a media plan. PennDOT's Public Information Group met with more than 200 business and community organizations. The meetings worked. People began to understand and plan for the Reconstruction period. PennDOT also planned for full use of the media, and because the project affected so many people in the area, they received excellent cooperation.
Whatever it was, the traffic situation that we feared never materialized.
It was one of the fastest rides downtown I've ever had, Stu. It took us only 30 minutes, and that includes all the bus stops around town.
We're going to try to figure out tonight during the next hour what the best way is to avoid the massive reconstruction on the Parkway East.
The Parkway is not restricted to any number of people in a vehicle. There are only 2 ramps which are restricted. One ramp, Greensburg.
The media campaign had several goals. One was to ensure that people were informed, that they would not only know when things would happen, but why and what their alternatives were. Like everything else in this project, it was designed to gain the cooperation and confidence of everyone, to motivate people to do their part.
It's a great solution for Pittsburgh commuters. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation wants you to join the Smart Van Poolers. Call 471-POOL.
PennDOT established a special set of rules to help keep the parkway as clear as possible. 5 tow trucks along the route were on 24-hour standby to be at an accident site within minutes. Contractors were required to use only the dead lanes for the transportation of supplies, and they had to build their own haul roads, a tricky and expensive operation with this topography. PennDOT also held bi-weekly coordination meetings for all contractors and subcontractors to solve problems and to coordinate logistics. Despite the restrictions the contractors faced, Phase 1 was finished 4 days early, and Phase 2 was finished 6 days early. In each case, the Parkway was ready to handle the holiday shopping rush, downtown Pittsburgh's most profitable season. That was just one success. The Pittsburgh people-moving experiment, that was another. It succeeded in something very simple, but very important to the economics of the area. It allowed people to conduct business almost as usual, even though 80,000 vehicles and even more people had to change their routes to do it. In this topography, the incredible thing is that they all could do it. This experiment began with a few innovative ideas that were developed into strategies specifically designed to meet the problems and needs unique to the Pittsburgh region. Some, like the commuter train, were not effective. Most strategies, however, were very effective and well worth the cost and effort involved in implementing them. The key to the success of the strategies was that potential problems were anticipated and solutions provided in advance of the construction, then driven home to the public.